Hey,
Mm.
okay, we'll get this recorded. Um, yeah, I asked Goer if, besides telling her own story, to share with us her father's incredible story. The painful longing that he experienced and the intensity of his search for God just shows, I just think it just gives a glimpse of the caliber of of someone who one day would become one of the Mandali. What a search! And um, and of course, Goer met Baba herself, and we'll hear that. And if along the way you have any questions and everything, just feel free because it'd be nice that it's just kind of informal. And if any of you uh, feel like next week sharing your story, uh, don't hesitate to let me know. But okay, so I'll Goer.
Mhm. Okay. So,
Well,
Jai Baba, everyone.
over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jai Baba. Um, so some of you have already heard my story before, I'm sure, but might be a little fuzzy after a few years. So I'll start with my dad's story, of course, he being my introduction to Baba, of course. So, as a small child, my father remembers as a very small child this feeling of
Uh-oh,
he
we
cannot
lost the
see
sound.
him.
Goer, back up a
Oh,
sentence or so because the sound went out there for a bit.
huh. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So, right. Okay. So as a small child, he recalls ever since memory first began, he experienced these intense feelings of longing for God. And without, mind you, without anybody ever talking to him about it, telling him about it, he just let go the feeling of, if there is something like God, why can I not see him? Why can I not talk to him? And these feelings were very strongly within him from a very, very young age. So in his youth, he
Uh-oh.
he continued with this again. What's happening? Okay, hear me?
You're okay right now.
Yes?
You're
No?
You're cutting in and out.
cutting in and out. You might want to
Oh,
adjust
I
the
wonder.
wires a little bit there.
Okay,
Plug them in.
nothing on my end that's telling me any different, but
Okay, good. You're good now.
anyway,
Yeah.
um, hopefully continue. Okay, so anyway, he came from parents of a very humble background. And of course, he was in school and he excelled in all his studies and sports, etc. He was a brilliant student. So, who had married into a very wealthy family took him up and brought him up, in her oh, it's now it's telling me my internet connection is unstable. Oops. Okay. Can you hear me?
You're still
All
hanging in
right.
there.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm coming through.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, okay. Yeah, feel free to interrupt me anytime. I don't mind that at all. Anyway, so he lives with his sister for a while, but she was, in spite of giving him the best of education, bringing him up like a prince in every way, she was not a very nurturing soul. And so he felt very dissatisfied under her guardianship. And she was a very, very hard taskmaster, if you will. And so for a small child, if he would get like 98 out of 100 on a test, he would be severely punished and this kind of thing. So he was deeply frustrated and he lacked that maternal nurturing. Now, there was this other lady in the family who was actually a sister in law of his sisters. And she had her own sons and her own family, and Minu became very attached to her. He would, at one point in his teenage years, he actually ran away from his sister's house because he was so frustrated and so upset with all that was going on. And this lady took him into her family and raised him as one of her own for a while. And then as he grew older, this intense search and longing within him. To knowledge, he had four friends, and those friends were equally interested in the search of God. So they decided that they would each go in different directions, and whoever found God met the other. Now, I have to say over here that as a young man, because he was so subdued at home and so, he didn't have the guidance of any loving adult to guide him along the way in his youth, off the wagon kind of, as any that lust takes over, and he is lost for a while. He is he's a lost soul. He lacks guidance, nobody to tell him how to go about things and whatever. And then he meets and is, brought up by this very kind lady who he naturally sort of comes to love in a very deep way. And that his love for her, physical love for her, grows as he grows older. And and she reciprocates in a way, in the sense that she's a very loving, nurturing soul. So he obviously gets very, very, very deeply attached to her. Now, as we go along, we find his search for God. He's reading books. He's going to different sages and saints, and in India you have all these different these saintly people abound. So he comes across many, many different sages and saints, and he goes to churches and mosques and crosses paths with all these different people. But nothing brings him any satisfaction. He's just so frustrated at one point. And then it comes to a climax one day when he comes into contact with this certain so-called wonderful occult and sort of saintly person, but who displayed a lot of psychic powers and such. And this person, when he starts to commit an unnatural offense on him, there's a fearsome struggle at one point, and he manages to escape. And after this episode, he's so disillusioned that he vows to make one last attempt. And if he's committed to ending his life, he just is absolutely at the end of his rope. He says he's this search has not led him anywhere. So a clear note is sounded to God, and on the appointed day, without informing anyone, he quietly slips away to a certain location outside the city, up on a hill. And he says, he thinks to himself, either his life would end or by some miracle he would be saved. Midnight was the appointed hour, and Minu fully expected and was ready for the former outcome. However, most miraculously and unexpectedly, one of his four spiritual friends finds him and comes running up that hill and finds him and manages to take him away from that awful place, saying that he's been instructed by a yogi of a high order to come and find Minu and bring him. Now, even though this yogi had not found God himself, he would be instrumental in leading Minu further in his search. So pleasantly surprised, Minu found.
No, yeah, I was just going to say.
Did you say something, Jeff?
Yeah, but nobody knew, not even this friend knew where he was, and yet somehow he
was, right. So I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So this is the story. Okay, so even though so he takes him. So now he finds this yogi, and he's pleasantly surprised to discover that he's actually was an old teacher of his in his former school. and his name was Master Ramsundar Pandey. He was a yogi. He was a yogi of a very high order. Now, he also discovered that he had been under the protection of this yogi, who in one of his nightly samadhis deep had seen the impending tragedy that was to befall Minu, and had tactfully but forcefully sent his friend to find Minu and had inwardly guided him to the exact spot. So talk about internal GPS. So because of the guidance of this yogi, the friend was actually guided to the exact spot where dad was, looking to end his life. So to me, this, I think, is one of the many unusual circumstances that shaped his destiny. So anyway, he kept in touch after this incident, happy in his company. The yogi said he had found a quote-unquote great soul in Minu, whose last few lives had been unnecessarily lost. He would insist on Minu performing japa, which is silent recitation of certain mantras, which he said would henceforth protect his life from such dangers as snake bites and gunshot wounds. Now, this is important. Keep that in mind. He also gave Minu a sacred thread, which Minu was to keep on his person, and which would further protect him from all evil forces and save his life, cautioning Minu not to. Minu mutely obeyed the yogi, although not fully understanding why, but felt instinctively that there was some supernatural to Kabir Vani by the famous poet Kabir, that God does come down to earth in human form during certain spiritual periods. At last, he was so happy to find God, if only in a book. This finding fit like a glove when he further discovered that this was one of those
Can you hear us go there?
No.
We're not hearing you. Could you go back to who knows the place?
I wonder if it would help if you shut your computer down and started it up again. I don't know.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask Meher Prasad. Would that help, Meher?
Yeah, reboot your computer. If that doesn't work, then restart your router.
Yes? Was that a yes?
Yes, that will help.
Goher.
Okay.
Go out.
Now I'm feeling really ignorant because I don't even know how to shut this darn thing off. Hang on. I have to get my husband. Okay.
Go get that man. Yeah.
Hang on one second.
If you restart your computer, then you'll get a new DNS. So you should be good.
So basically, just turn the computer off and then start it up again, and it may correct itself.
Yeah.
Mayor Sagar?
Yeah, it might.
Yes, that's right.
It could be DNS that is having the router DNS might be having issue.
I need to shut down the computer and start it again. Can you help me shut it down, please?
Restart?
Sometimes it helps to boost it.
Guess we should stop recording.
All right.
If you shut this off, you're going to lose your thing.
Yeah, but no, I can come back on it. So how do you shut it down? Just tell me how you shut it down.
Come off the program.
Okay, all right. I'll be right back, folks. Sorry about that.
Okay, Tony. Tony, can you play us a song?
Oh my. Oh my.
Oh my.
Oh, I'm
the alternate entertainment.
All right. Let's see. Set it on musician sound. Oh man, I don't know if I'll remember, but I'm gonna do what I sang on the Thursday night a week or so ago, I guess. I call you mercy, that is your name. I call you mercy, that's why you came. A gentle feeling that's harder than steel. You are revealing all the love I conceal with mercy so real. You are the ocean inside this drop. Within this seedling, you are the crop. I call you fire and healing rain, unbound desire, regardless of pain. Mercy is your name. You have but one answer when I rail and attack, relentlessly healing what I think I lack. You are giving back, you are giving back. When I am sleeping, you call my name. When I am weeping, you cool the rain. When I am crashing, you hold my hand. When clashing, you understand. When I am weeping, when I am loving, you make it complete. When I am make it complete. When I am crashing, you're like a waterfall. And when I'm laughing, you soften the fall. Mercy to you I call. Your loveliness lingers. Can I believe it's true? With just a move of your fingers, you do what you must do to bring me home to you, to bring me home to you. I call you mercy, that is your name. I call you mercy, man, that's why you came. The gentlest of feelings, that's so much harder than steel. You are revealing all the love I conceal with mercy so real. With mercy so real. With mercy so real.
Hey, Baba! Woo! Beautiful!
Now the lyrics in the second half, got all jumbled around. But I figured
we didn't notice it.
it was better than going to get the lyrics and taking up all that time. So
No,
thank
it was
you.
a good jumble.
Great.
That was great. Thank you.
It was great. It was
Bravo,
great.
Tony,
Thanks,
sir.
Tony.
Bravo.
Jay Baba.
Okay, Goher. We ready?
Okay, I think so. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it better now? I hope so. I don't know what's happening, but anyway, I have my I hijacked the computer today because I needed, room and light and all that. But in case something happens, I'll switch to my iPad. So whatever. Let's hope.
Yep.
Let's hope we can go on.
Okay.
Okay. So as I was saying, so he was reading this book and he finds out that this is the time when God is supposed to be here on earth. So he's very happy about that. Now, at the same time, during this time, he all of a sudden, in the matter of span of a day, he goes about collecting pictures of all the prophets in history, starting with Zoroaster, Ram, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, and ending with the late mayor of Karachi, who was a Parsi gentleman by the name of Jamshed Mehta, Jamshed Nasarwanji, right? Who was his mentor actually at the time. So he frames all these pictures and he puts it at the head of his bed and calls it the ladder of ascent. So beginning with his ideal at the bottom and continuing in reverse order to Zoroaster up on top. Okay, so that happens. Then one day this yogi, old yogi, who's his guide, tells him that he'll be doing parade. And he's very puzzled by that because he had nothing to do with parading anywhere. He was working as an insurance clerk at the time. But he finds out that this prediction soon comes true because he finds himself going to Nasik in India as a student at the Central Police School in Nasik. Now, before he departs, the yogi tells him that he would encounter a very holy man in a certain direction from the school, and that Minu should not leave him at any cost. Little did he dream how important this prediction would prove to be. Now, two events which occurred consecutively upon his arrival at the police training school illustrate the importance of Minu's association with the yogi, and further prove that it was divinely orchestrated. On the very first evening of his arrival, around sunset, he walked out into the fields a little distance from the school to have his usual talk with God. What he used to do was he would be very happy from his very young age to just go out in nature, in the fields or at the seaside and just talk to God. And he would be very happy doing this. So the first day in school, he sets out to do that. At the same time, one of the officers in that school was trying out a new gun. And at a good distance, thinking that Minu was a good target, he began unwittingly to fire in his direction. Now, some servants of the school, including a barber, witnessed this near catastrophe to take place and immediately rushed to Minu's, to protect him, to save him. Minu wondered if the mantras that the yogi had assigned him actually protected him from gunfire. Remember, he said all the mantras that he had taught him would protect him from gunfire. So the next morning, that same barber comes into his room and he sees this ladder of ascent, by Minu's bed. And he thinks to him, he says, you're a total misfit in this school. What is this? He says. So then he realizes that Minu is a very spiritually minded person. And he says, listen, you need to go and meet this certain holy person who stays on the Bombay-Agra road at Circle Cinema. Now, he mentions his name. Now, and his name is Meher Baba. So when he hears this name, Dad thinks, and it comes to him that he's heard this name before. It so happened that during his school matriculation exam a few years before, while staying at his aunt's house, he had come across a magazine called Hindi Graphic in the toilet, of all places. And this Hindi Graphic magazine had on its cover a picture of a saintly person, and under it was the caption, Meher Baba, Sadhguru Meher Baba. So he thinks that, even though he's had all these horrendous experiences, whatever, that for whatever reason, this is a holy person and his picture should not be in a toilet. So he rips out the page and he puts it quickly between two sheets of paper and he rushes off to take his matriculation exam. Now, the thing was, while he was taking the exam, the paper accidentally falls from the desk onto the floor, and he had totally forgotten about it. And he finds that there's Baba's picture, right? In his zeal as a Zoroastrian, he had forgotten, while rushing to do his examination, he had forgotten to do his the sacred thread that we Parsis call the Sadra and the Kasti. So he had forgotten to do his Kasti, which is the normal prayer that a Zoroastrian would do. But instead of that, this Meher Baba had accompanied him to his exam. So he was very happy about that, whatever it meant. And he remembers another incident that at the same time, around that same time, while he was playing billiards with some friends, he had heard them mention that this Meher Baba had stopped in Karachi on his way to Iran. And he was wanting to rush off to meet him at the docks, but they said, no, he's already sailed away. So these were two incidents that he remembers of when he had first heard Baba's name. So now he says, knowing the yogi's prediction and now the Baba telling him to go and see this Meher Baba, he decides to go. So Minu writes, on January 17, 1932 was the happiest day of my life. Like a warrior of old, setting out fully armed to fight for his country, he set out fully armed for his holy expedition. He dressed himself in his usual white garments with a locket containing a small photo of Lord Zoroaster around his neck, the holy thread given by the yogi, and in his inside pocket, sandalwood mala. Mala is like a rosary, a religious rosary for prayers. Thus he felt secure and fully prepared. Upon arrival at the compound that Sunday morning, he was met by 3 disciples, Ramju, a Muslim, Vishnu, a Hindu, and Darachanji, a Zoroastrian, one after another. When they asked who he was and the purpose of his visit, to each he replied, I am a pagal, meaning, pagal means insane person in Hindi. I am a pagal, come from Karachi to meet a similar type of elder pagal who I understand is staying here. Now, although he realized these words sounded idiotic, I understand, he felt convinced that they would internally convey to Meher Baba if he was really holy, silent, if he was really who he said he was, that he would understand that this was a silent message from a hungry heartbeats of a true seeker. So within minutes, the man called Meher Baba suddenly came out and stood just a few feet away. Minu notes, he appeared young, strongly built, strikingly handsome, and clean-shaven. His lovely hair flowed down to his shoulders. His mustache was full, his eyes were fascinating, and above all, he had a broad, charming, unforgettable smile on his radiant face. He wore a long white robe-like garment with a hip-length colored coat of cream color, and he was holding a small wooden board. Then and there, Minu felt a voice deep inside saying, Minu, here is God whom you have been searching for. From that moment of spontaneous joy and bliss, Minu knew his search had ended. So, calling him into a room while seated on the floor with his disciple Chanji to the right, Baba asked Minu what he wanted. While keeping perfectly silent and fixing his gaze on Baba, Minu addressed him from within, emptying out all of his pent-up frustration while telling Baba that if indeed he was who he said he was, would know all this and be able to satisfy his inner cravings. Astonishingly, using his alphabet board and via his disciple Chanji, Baba said, I have heard you completely. Now, mind you, this exchange took place in silence. Minu was lashing out from within, but in total silence. So Baba replies and says, I have heard you completely. It is since your birth that this instinct is there within you. Do not worry. Do as I say. Forget I. Every night go to sleep in thoughts of me. Then began the verbal dialogue where Minu unburdened himself with all the good and bad that he had experienced since memory began and in his long search for God. He fearlessly told Baba about meeting the old yogi and showed him a picture, then began disarming himself of all his spiritual paraphernalia, confessing to all these childish things. Immediately, Baba replied, "This is not childish. It is this that has brought you to me." He further stated, "You are connected with me since past lives. I have to repay the debt I owe you. Not only you love me, but I love you." These were Baba's words. So at the end of this momentous meeting, Minu leaves with feelings that were indescribable. He was totally convinced he had at last found his very own God and the Savior and Messiah that the world desperately needed. He realized his efforts to this day had not been in vain, and the true significance of all the experiences to this point. He found himself recalling incidents from his childhood which had seemed previously inexplicable to him, such as when he was a young child. This is the one story. The old African watchman who guarded the house at night told him around midnight when he was fast asleep, God often came and sat beside his bed and actually caressed him. The watchman vividly described the appearance and dress of this being he felt to be God in human form. The description exactly matched that of Baba during his first meeting in Nasik. Furthermore, he learned years later that Baba was actually present in Karachi at that time and was staying only a few houses away. He also recollected that when visiting certain sages or holy ones as a child, as when he was in the presence of the renowned theosophist Krishnamurti, the sage looked at him with great reverence and took hold of his hands and placed them on his eyes and kissed him, and then placed his hand on Minu's head with tears running down his face. So obviously, Dad was a very old soul, had been connected to Baba probably in many lifetimes before, who knows. But all this culminated in this life and brought him to the feet of Baba. So without a doubt, all these experiences and his entire life to this point had been a prelude of events and circumstances that brought Minu to the feet of his master. He was blissfully happy that from here on through eternity, he would have his own God with him every step of the way. But this was only the beginning, and Minu realized he had a long way to go yet to know Baba as he really is, to experience his ways and to learn to obey him 100%, if he hoped to earn his grace. So that was his initial meeting with Baba. After this, he obviously did everything and his whole life was under Baba's guidance. And Baba was very strict with him in the beginning. He had to learn many harsh lessons in obedience. One such lesson was, I'm sorry.
Goher, how old was your dad when you met Baba?
Okay, so this was 1932, and Dad was born in, I would say he was in his early 20s.
Okay, thank you.
Mid-20s, right. So Dad was born in 1907, right. So, where was I? Okay, so yeah, so he was under Baba's guidance now, of course, and as I was saying, he had to learn all these difficult lessons of obedience and whatnot when he first met Baba. So at one point, there was this celebration, his 38th birthday celebration, Baba's 38th birthday celebration, which included a small darshan program. And it was at this point that Baba referred to the subject in front of all gathered. Baba said, referring to Dad, "He is perfect from top to toe, but his eyes are very bad." This open hint opened the door to future direct guidance by the master, who helps each one eliminate the blocks to perfection. So Dad had a few blocks to overcome, definitely. So Minu's training had begun in earnest, and along the way, he learned many new lessons, such as implicit obedience. So once, after inadvertently and in good faith disobeying a wish of the beloved, Baba ordered him to go away in front of everybody. It was a small thing. Baba told Minu to go have his lunch, and there was a darshan program taking place, whatever. And Dad, of course, didn't want to leave his presence, so he just sort of hung around there in the background. Baba was very displeased, and he sent him away, just pushed, threw him out there, out of his sight kind of thing, go away. So Minu was very crushed by this first lesson in obedience. And he realized now that even the smallest wish of Baba's was so important that he had to implicitly obey whatever Baba said. So this was like his first mini lesson that he, that he learned. So during his stay in Nasik, he had the privilege to be in Baba's company very often, playing games, taking part in games such as marbles, cricket, carom, ping pong, and cards. But this was also a period of suffering, and he was very agonized when Baba would leave to go away to the West. He would be very, very, the feelings of separation were it did him a lot of angst kind of thing. So anyway, this went on. Then in the early 30s, let's see, in 33, actually, this was when we first met him. Then Baba comes to the West, and then he makes several trips to the West between 32 and 34, I think. But in 33, Baba began integrating him into the Mandli and gave him assignment of contacting the former mayor of Karachi, who had also been Minu's ideal. So from this time, he was struggling with these feelings of separation and whatnot. And Baba said, at one point he tells him, he said, "Today I am giving you a master key, which note carefully. He who always loves is in me, but he who engages in lust keeps away from me. Be very, very careful. If you really desire to be near and with me, avoid lust. As soon as you are dragged heavily by lust, close your eyes and try to concentrate on the root of the nose between the two eyes and think of me. Do not do this for a long time." He further said, "Love lifts a man up, while passion or lust drags him down below. Do not worry for being lifted up by love. Worry for being pulled down by lust. It follows that if you are not pulled down, you will automatically be pulled up." Baba also said that this struggle was an eternal one, and one could hardly escape it on one's own unless he had the hand of a living master on his head to free him from it. But when Minu protested, saying how yogis of a high order had failed in this respect, what hope did he have to overcome it? To which Baba replied that he had to make the initial effort and then be worthy of his grace. So in March of 1933, Minu was present at the wedding of Baba's brother Biram. And after speaking a few words spontaneously on the occasion, which Baba enjoyed and appreciated, he presented Minu with his alphabet board. And this was the alphabet board that Baba had brought to the West, the first one. And Minu gave him his alphabet board, which he had made and he used to use in times of keeping silence. So this precious token of Baba's remains with me as one of my treasured possessions. So after passing his exams in the police training school, Baba sends him back to Karachi and he tells him, "I want you to be there." Now, India was divided in 47 when the British divided India. So Baba was in India, but he wanted Dad to be in Pakistan. He wanted him to be there. So he said, "I have kept you there." Anyway, so in 47, Baba gave Minu and some other Mandli members the mission of trying to find musts. Now, this was another important phase in Baba's work, the finding of musts and contacting of musts. And Minu was at that time in the police training school as a CID officer. So never having undertaken such a daunting task previously, Minu was naturally quite anxious, but eventually being determined to fulfill Baba's wish, he managed the laborious and challenging undertaking and completed his mission successfully in transporting 3 musts from Karachi in spite of numerous hurdles and complications. Now you can imagine, these people are very difficult to control. Dad was complete novice at all this, and how he managed to bring 3 of them, it took 3 or 4 days from Karachi all the way to, I think it was to Satara that he had to bring the musts. This was an arduous task, but he managed to do it, and Baba was very happy because he had assigned this task to 3 other mandli, and Minu was the only one to be successfully accomplish this. So, and then once the contact was made, he sent them back with Minu back to Karachi. So in 47, while trying to organize a Baba group in Karachi, Minu met Kekashru Patel. Now I'm coming to my family side of the story. So he meets my grandfather, Kekashru Patel, and his family, one of whom was his daughter, Frani. They soon developed a friendship, and this blossomed into a deeper relationship. And eventually, with Baba's permission and emphasizing his wish 3 times to marry Frani, marry Frani, marry Frani, they finally tied the knot in February of 1954. Now, Minu was a confirmed bachelor all these years. So when this happened, his family was really shocked because not only they made the decision to marry, but the difference in age between my father and mother was 20 years. So Frani was only 24. My father was 44 at the time. So this was in February of 54 that they married. So at first, because he had this very deep love for this other lady who had brought him up when he was a child, this relationship, when he first met my mother, caused a lot of friction in the family. And this lady gave him quite a hard time about it because she felt very possessive of him, having brought him up and nurtured him and all of this. And they had a very strong bond, even though my father married and raised his own family. He was very, very close to this lady all his life. And at one point when this was all brought to Baba's attention, Baba said that it was because they've shared many lives together in many previous lifetimes, that therefore the bond is so strong between them, and that this was all due to karma. So, but anyway, so they get married, and 9 months later, guess who comes along? So in December of that year, yours truly makes my debut into the world and into the family. Minu, of course, right away sends a cable to Baba saying, we have a daughter and we'd like you to name her. At the time when Baba received this in December of 54, he was in a period of strict seclusion, and all the collected correspondence was put to the side. Nothing was brought to his attention. So with that in mind, I had no name. For the next 5 months, I was nameless. On my birth certificate, it said Baby Karas. Okay. My mother, my grandparents, my mom's side, they were all in an uproar saying, what is this nonsense? You're not naming this child. You people are mad. But my father stuck to his guns, and he said, if anybody's going to name my daughter, it will be Baba, and it'll come. So he waited very patiently. Now, as it turned out, 5 months later, in April of 1955, Adi and Rhoda Dubash. Adi Dubash was my father's cousin, and they lived right behind us in Karachi. Their home was right behind us. They had 2 sons. Mirwan was the older one, and Homi was the younger one. Homi was only 4 years old, and after falling from a 2nd-story window very tragically and having severe head injuries, Homi passed away. So when news of Homi's death reached Baba, and this was a stipulation Baba had, that if any of his close disciples were to pass away, that news was to be brought to him immediately. So when news of Homi's death reached him, Baba came out of seclusion briefly, and at that time, all the collected correspondence came to his attention. and one of them being Dad's telegram. So he brings the women mandli in front and says, looks at Mera first, and he says, now we've given your name many times, no Mera. Then he looks at Mani and he says, same thing, we've given your name, because all the close disciples obviously would ask the same question of him. And so he said, no. Third in line was Dr. Goher. And so he looks at her and he says, what do you think? Should we give your name? And she said, Baba, your wish. So Baba says, done. So I have a letter in my possession today, which says, Irich writes to my father and says, today Baba has named your daughter Goher, into parentheses, jewel. The meaning of the word Goher in the Persian language is jewel. So anyway, so that's how I was named. So Dr. Goher was my sweet namesake. Anyway, so that letter, of course, is also my other treasured relic that I possess. Anyway, so then we go on to, 6 years later, my brother was born, and Baba somehow heard of his arrival even before Dad's cable would reach him. And right away, he sent his name as well to name him Meherji. So we were both named by Baba. So my first physical meeting with beloved Baba, now keep in mind, our home in Karachi at the time was the Baba Center. My father had established the Karachi group, and almost everybody that came to Baba in Karachi came through Minu. So our home was the Baba Center. Every 25th of the month, we had a Baba meeting, and we would gather and say the prayers at 7 p.m. and then talk of any news from the Baba world. Dad would give talks or whatever, and we would do that every single month. And I would look forward to those meetings very, very eagerly, because Dad would do a lot of sharing of his life with Baba, his experiences, his meetings of with different people, and his stories were just absolutely fabulous. So I would always look forward to hearing that. And then in 1962 came the momentous occasion of my first meeting and seeing Baba at the tender age of, I was almost 8 years old. This was November of 1962. So anyway, I find myself at the gates of Guru Prasad, this beautiful palace in Pune, among thousands who had come from all over India and the West to partake of this joyous event. I remember thinking to myself as I walked to the back of the compound that as I turn around, all I want to see is Baba. Now, keep in mind, I'm a 7-year-old child. I've been brought up with the knowledge that Baba is God. I've taken him, of course, as God and know him. And now to actually physically see him, oh my goodness, it was overwhelming to a child of that tender age. But anyway, so here I am thinking, all I want to do is turn around and see Baba first. That's it. And I knew somehow where he would be seated and how this would be without anybody telling me. So we walked to the back of Guru Prasad. I walked a few paces in front of the stage, and then I turned around, and there he was sitting on the stage, just beaming pure radiance. I mean, to tell you, I was lost in that moment. Was even at that age, it was so overwhelming. I cannot describe the feeling. I was thinking to myself, I'm actually looking at God in human form. It was just overwhelming. That's all I can say. And I don't know how long I even stood there just looking at him. Anyway, and then it was, I remember thousands and thousands of people. I remember it being very hot and humid. And then all of a sudden, without warning, this thunderclap happens and this huge shower comes, pouring down on us. And all of us, like all the Western ladies that were sitting in the first few rows in front of the stage, and I was one of them, was sitting somewhere close there, we all got absolutely soaked. And Baba was, he was worried about, Westerners experiencing this kind of weather and getting drenched and all this. So he asked that all the Western ladies be brought in to see the mandli and get dry clothing. So I found myself inside with the ladies, and Baba's sister Mani very sweetly gave me one of her dresses to change into. And then subsequently, when we returned to Karachi, she actually sent me this dress. She gifted me this dress, which I still have, yet another one of my treasured possessions. So that was 1962. And then at that time, Baba would call us sometimes in the afternoons. He would call different groups to meet him personally in that little side room in Guru Prasad. And we would have the pleasure of just having Baba to ourselves, just, our group. And the first time that happened, I recall we were standing in a line, in a queue, waiting to take his darshan, actually. And that was the first time I had bowed down to him. So I'm in this queue, and I keep peeking out like this, every once in a while, because there were adults standing in front of me, so I couldn't see. So I kept doing this and trying to see if I could see Baba every once in a while. And then finally it was my turn. And then I remember kneeling down, putting my hands on the side of his 2 feet, putting my head on his left foot first, then his right foot, and then in the center, and just stayed there for a while. And then when I got up, I was enfolded in his embrace. And another absolutely timeless moment. I can still close my eyes and picture this. It was just absolutely amazing. I can't even begin to tell you what I was feeling as a child. So then we would sit down, and Baba would converse with different people, ask this one his health and that one whatever. And then at one point, my dad turns to me. I was sitting right next to him on the carpet in front of Baba. And my dad turns to me and whispers in my ear to keep my gaze on him and drink in every drop so that this memory will last you a lifetime. And that's exactly what I did. I just sat and I just looked at Baba and drank him in as much as possible. The next and last physical meeting I had with beloved Baba came in 65, when he had called only some Eastern groups for a darshan program. And this time, when I stood up after taking his darshan, I was almost 11 at the time. I took his darshan, I stood up. He gestured, "How big you have grown." So I said, "Yes, Baba." So that was my last meeting with him physically. And then, let's see, then came the darshan in 1969, after Baba had dropped his body, the great darshan, where we all went to stay and in the tents outside of, this was very, in the first few Amar Tithis were very primitive. And I mean, although everything was taken care of beautifully, we were all staying in these tents outside, and I remember it was freezing cold, but it was joyful, so joyful at the same time to be together with, met so many new friends and new groups of people that were there. And let's see what else. So that's basically Dad and my stories so far. So if anybody has any questions, I would be open to answering anything that you would like to know, or I'll go ahead and share some of the stories, whatever you'd like.
Well, what would be interesting that, questions like this, like you grow up, there in Karachi, and you have this relationship with Baba. Yes. What was it like in school? I mean, did you have to keep that all to yourself, or were you able to?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, so mostly it was not an issue in the sense that a few of my friends knew, of course, that we believed in Baba, and that Baba said, that he claimed he was God in human form and so forth. And sometimes, I mean, I never really had an issue with that. Like nobody really gave me a hard time about it. But I would often think to myself at some points, when things would happen with religion or something, and I would say, I have a direct connection. I have no worries. So, just think to myself kind of thing. But No, that was not really an issue growing up. Yeah. And me being so introverted, I was always a very shy, very, very shy person. So, so.
Did you have any doubts about Baba during your teenage years? Anything?
No, no doubts about him. But of course, you know, growing up and hearing Dad's stories went a long way to reaffirm my faith, if you will. So this one story stands out very, very vividly in my memory, and that let's see, this is, I just want to narrate it so that I don't forget any details. Yeah, this was in Madras. I believe it was in the 40s. And it had to do with Baba. This was the time when Baba was in Madras, and he had this darshan program there, I believe. And he would then go in the afternoon to visit different homes of people that he knew. And on one of those visits, he directed the person the car who he was in to go to this certain cinema that was in Madras. And people were wondering, why is he wanting to go to this cinema? Well, it turns out the cinema was owned by the mayor of Madras. And this gentleman had come to take his darshan the previous day. But, and Baba had actually singled him out in the line and told somebody to either meet him or something, but he took off and sort of, you know, went away real quick after taking darshan. So Baba comes to his cinema and Dad was along with the group when this happened. And he said, Baba gets out of the car, but instead of going into the main door of the cinema, he goes to the side of the building where there was the staircase that led up to a room on the top. And Baba climbs the staircase and there's a door. He opens the door. There's a room. He walks into the room, and the room was like spiritually adorned with pictures of different saints and prophets and whatnot. And there was a single chair in that room. And Baba goes and sits on that chair. Well, this owner of the mayor of Madras, who owned the cinema, absolutely breaks down, bows to Baba. And unbeknownst to everyone, he had not mentioned this to anyone. It was his desire. He was a very deep spiritually minded person who also had a lot of thoughts about God and whatnot all his life. And he had thought to himself that if there is such a person, if there is such thing as...
Whoop, we lost you. Such a thing as God in human form?
That he would one day come and sit in that chair. Uh-oh, my internet is being unstable again. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so that was that, yeah. So that story resonated with me in a big way, and I really enjoyed hearing stories like that. So yeah.
In the course of your, you know, like college and thereafter, did your kind of faith in Baba and your dedication, did you run into any challenges to that made it difficult, or were you mainly trying to just the normal kind of struggles of trying to live for Baba and try to remember him in the midst of busy life?
Yeah. Oh, I would say my...
Darn it.
Only did...
Uh-oh, where did she go? Hey, Bob Yeager, have you got a poem for us?
Oh, gosh.
Pull out that
I
thing.
don't. I tell you what, I will, how about if I sing a song?
Okay, go for it.
These are some words I wrote to a tune that I love. As we try to remember you in all that we think and say or do, We need your love all night and day. Dear Lord, show us the way. Oh, brothers, love him more. Open our hearts at the tavern door. Oh, brothers, love him more until he helps us stay. As we try to remember you in all that we think and say or do, we need to find you every day. Dear Lord, show us the way. Oh, sisters, love him more. Open our hearts at the tavern door. Oh, sisters, love him more until he helps us stay. As we try to remember you in all that we think and say or do, we need your presence every day. Dear Lord, show us the way. Oh, mothers, love him more. Open our hearts at the tavern door. Oh, mothers, love him more until he helps us stay. As we try to remember you in all that we think and say or do, we need to be yours every day. Dear Lord, show us the way. Oh, fathers, love him more. Open our hearts at the tavern door. Oh, fathers, love him more until he helps us stay. As we try to remember you in all that we think and say or do, we need your love all night and day. Dear Baba, show us the way. Hey, Baba.
Wow, that's pretty elaborate. Got a lot of words in there.
Sounds like a Quaker song.
It's that old Quaker song, As I Went Down to the River to Pray. And I just, I love that tune. And one day I just sort of started writing some other words to it and had a lot of fun with it. So,
So we've had a couple of Goher substitutes. Back again.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why this thing keeps going in and out. Baba's having fun with us today, I suppose. I don't know.
Maybe your weather down there in Florida.
No, it's fine actually, Betty. There's no storms or anything today. So yeah, it's pretty stable right now.
Did you, yeah, go ahead. You might have a question coming here.
Sure.
Goher,
Yes.
at the 69 Darshan,
Yes.
were you bused to Baba's tomb, and what was your experience at that time at his tomb in 69? And is your brother a Baba lover also?
Okay, so you haven't heard my brother's story. Let me go back to your second question first. My brother Mirji was 25 in 1986 in Karachi. He was an employee of Pan American Airlines as a ground engineer in the company. In those days, there was no the jetways that connect the planes to the terminals were not there. So everything had to be bussed back and forth. His work as a ground engineer was to service the aircraft as they passed through Karachi. So September 5th, 1986, he goes to work. And this flight comes in from Bombay on its way to Frankfurt. And unbeknownst to him or anybody else on that aircraft, he does his work under the plane, but then he needs a fuel sheet to be signed by the captain. So he runs up, he has permission, he runs up into the cockpit only to find there's no captain and no co-pilot. And why is this? Because the day previous, before this flight came into Karachi, the authorities and Pan American had been tipped off that there might be some trouble on this flight. In spite of this, neither did Pan American nor did the authorities in Karachi do anything to secure that aircraft. The only thing they did, because of this hint, was they took the pilot and the co-pilot out from the hatch, from the top hatch of the plane, so that even the cabin crew had no idea that there was nobody in the cockpit. He goes running up into the cockpit to get this fuel sheet signed by the captain, and 2 jeeps pull up the two openings of the aircraft, the doorways, and four guys jump out dressed in security uniforms that were fake and storm the plane, shut the doors, and hold the plane hostage for the next 17 hours. After this, when their demands are not met, and my brother, being the only one who knew the workings of the radio, had talked to his boss actually and helped to get their demands sort of go back and forth. In spite of everything, 17 hours later, all hell broke loose. They started shooting, and my brother was one of the first to get shot in the back of the head. So he was married only 3 years at the time. And this was naturally devastating news to all of us. We were here in New York at the time. I was visiting me in New York. This was her only son. She went completely off the deep end. And the Mandli, of course, also were absolutely shattered to hear this news. So he died very early on. Interestingly, the 3 pillars in Karachi, the 3 in the Baba world, were my father Minu, Adi Dubash, and Adi Arjani. I don't know if you've heard of Adi Arjani. These were the 3 Baba stalwarts in Karachi. All 3 of them lost a son. I mean, all 3 of them gave up a son to Baba. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, Adi Dubash's young son, Homi, had fallen down at the age of 4 of head trauma and passed away. Adi Arjani lost his 14-year-old son in Calcutta in the early 70s, I want to say. Yeah. And then my brother in 1986. So Mirji was not there in 71 when, no, wait. Sorry, I take it back. He was there in 71. This happened in 86. Yeah. So, yeah, but my feeling to answer your first question, when we went to Amartithi, it was my first time going to Nagar. I had never been to Nagar or Mehrabad. And I remember going in the bus with a lot of Westerners from Pune. And my father was one of the guides. And he was, as soon as I remember, this was my father. I mean, he was so all Baba. As soon as he saw that, our bus was approaching Mehrabad on the road, and he sees the Samadhi in the distance, as soon as he first had sight of the Samadhi, he jumps up out of his seat and he goes, Parvardigar, Meher Baba ki jai, 3 times, So that was my first introduction to Baba Samadhi. And it was a surreal feeling to know that, Baba was not in body. He was in the Samadhi, of course. But I've had some of my most precious moments in the Samadhi. In fact, that is the place, that is my refuge today. That is the place I go to if I am at a very low point in my life. Yeah. So for me, it was very fulfilling to be there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr.
Other questions that we can stump her with? Let me ask you, did any of your friends, were they drawn to Baba at all? Or, I mean...
You mean my school friends?
Any of your school friends or college?
No, they were all, in those days, the Parsi community were, even to this day, I think, to a lesser degree, but still, were very, antagonistic, maybe too strong a word, but I feel they were, being so conditioned in being Zoroastrians in their upbringing as Zoroastrians, they did not condone or want anything to do with Baba. Of course, we had all these Baba functions. We would celebrate Baba's birthday in a big way. We would have public functions where Dad would be a speaker, or Rhoda Dubash would speak, or we would have a guest speaker, somebody visiting from either India or whatever. So we had these public functions, and people would come, but not many of them joined in as part of our Baba group, I would say. So we were a small group of about 30, 35 people all the years that I was growing up. And of course, now it's much, much less. They're down to like 3 or 4 now in Karachi. So, yeah. Zareen Mawalwala is the last of our old-time Baba lovers who's still there. And then my sister-in-law, of course, my brother's wife, she's still there. So, yeah.
Betty?
Yes. Goher, you may have talked about it. I was away for a little bit. Is Adi your father's cousin, Adi Dubash? Or
yes, they're related. Yes.
And did they come to Baba at a similar time? Did one come first, or?
And they all. It was actually Adi's mother, who was the lady that brought up Minu in his young days. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now you see the connection. Yeah. And then so Adi was like a brother to my father. They sort of grew up together, Dad being older, of course. But yes, so and his Adi's mother came to Baba first, and then Adi. And he had 2 other brothers. The 2 other brothers had nothing to do with Baba. They were absolutely against him. Yeah. But and so was her husband. But Adi and his mom were definitely Baba followers. Yeah. And she suffered a lot in her life in the physical sense. She eventually passed away from cancer and so forth. And she struggled with that for many, many years. And my father, being so close to her, was very anguished about this. And of course, had brought it up to Baba. She had come to Bombay for several operations also, I remember, and so forth. But Baba said, it's all in my hands. You have nothing to worry about. So, and he said of her that she is the angel of Karachi, whatever that meant. Yeah, he called her the angel of Karachi. Yeah. So.
Did you ever find in your life that just having Baba there, any kind of helpful insights? A lot of the people, they have to kind of make it up as they go along. Did you feel like, having Baba there and the insights and having brought up that it made your life in some ways, you were able to avoid a lot of the natural pitfalls that people encounter?
Yeah. Jeff, as you've said many times, I feel that naturally I've been a witness to life all along even in my younger days. I learned a lot from seeing people's relating to people, seeing how they lived, their life experiences. All of that taught me a lot along the way. And I'll say that yes, when I went through a very difficult time in my younger years after my marriage and after coming here, went through many, many struggles, and for a long time was very disillusioned, very, what should I say, very, very, I had been through a very low period in my life. And in those days, of course, after many years of going through this, and at first fighting it on a human level, trying everything under the sun that I could to combat it, if you will. Nothing worked at all. And I suffered for many years, none of it being at my provocation, which was the factor that was so bewildering, that I had to go through all this rejection and hurt and whatever, disillusionment. But what it brought to me finally was the impression that all life is so transitory, that none of this is permanent. So why am I even, finally, when that came to me, when that awakening happened, if you will, Baba, when he awakened that feeling and thought within me, And I said, Baba, it's all you. From this day forward, whatever happens, I accept as your will. That was the turning around. That was I could literally feel something unwinding in me, if you will. And so, you have to come to after going through something like that for so many years, you have to come to the realization that it's not, even though you didn't do anything to provoke it, it is something that you have brought with you from wherever, from life's past or whatever. And so the best thing to do naturally is to give it all to Baba. And that's exactly when that happened, I'm so blessed to know that awakening took place within my heart, and I gave it all to Baba. And that's when he took over completely. And to this day, my life has turned around, 360, I mean, whatever, it's just totally turned around. And I feel so much more content. I think and feel and live more peacefully than I ever have before. So, yeah.
So somehow you were able to let go of micromanaging your life.
Yes.
Kind of, or it just became impossible to do that.
Yeah, because it didn't make sense. I mean, it was as if I was, punching a wall. Nothing was happening. Nothing was turning around. Nothing was being solved. And until I finally realized, silly idiot, leave it all to Baba. That's it. That's your answer. And that definitely was what turned things around.
Beautiful.
Diane?
Hi, Goher. Thank you so much. Your story,
Diane.
I always hear something new.
Oh, thank you.
I have a question for you. Because you were so brave and vulnerable in sharing about your family's tragedy, losing your brother. How do you now deal with, it's almost like you want to say, why, Baba? We were such incredible lovers and followers and obedient, and why did this happen? What story how do you spin this in your head with Bob? And thank you.
Oh, sure. So my mother, I know, had a very, very tough time with this. I don't think she ever recovered from my brother's passing, even though we were so close to Baba in every way. And she went down into the depths of depression because of it. So she had a very hard time dealing with it. And I don't blame her. She was his mother after all. But for me, it was when all this was actually happening in real time, when we first heard of it, it was early morning the next day, our time. And it was already evening over there of that day, and everything had already happened. But I didn't know anything of it till I called my sister-in-law in the morning. Why? Because my mother had actually heard the news on CNN the night before that this tragedy was taking place in Karachi, and she was very worried and upset. And I kept telling her, Mom, you don't even know that he's on call, so just don't worry. We'll call Jasmine first thing in the morning. And so I did. And when I did call her, she said, I've been waiting for your call. This and this has happened. And we don't know where they've taken him, where he is, what hospital, whatever. So I kept in touch with her all day, whatever. But the minute I heard about it, I just went deep within myself, and I kept repeating Baba's name, and I kept bringing him into my vision, my thoughts, and saying, Merji, just say, be with Baba, be with Baba, be with Baba. That's all I kept saying. So as difficult as it was, I had a 2-month-old baby at the time. I'd just given birth to my second daughter rather, third child. Yeah, it was a very tumultuous time. And, but there was a certain, there was all these mixed feelings going on, but at the same time, there was this, in the back of everything, there was this peace, there was this knowing, if you will, that for whatever reason, this is also Baba's doing. And that thought, I remember thinking that this is all Baba's doing. So that's the way I was able to cope with it myself and say that for whatever reason, it was Baba's wish and will that this happened. So who knows? And in talking to somebody else, another close Baba friend who I had near me at the time, Mirwan Mistry, he said to me, Goher, actually Mirji has gained. He has jumped forward so much because of this incident. He has probably gained so many, he has jumped forward in the line, if you will. He has, what was his, he will not have to take so many extra births. In other way, he has sort of jumped ahead in the line. So just think of it that way. He has gained. And so I hope I answered your question.
You more than answered it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah.
What would you say to all of us here?
Yeah.
I mean, about Baba. What, you know, how would you? Is there anything that, like, I can't say advice, but any words that you would say?
Yeah.
That have been helpful to you, you know.
Each one's relationship with Baba is unique, right? We all have our different lives and our different circumstances and whatever has driven us and brought us to this point. And we are so blessed to have Baba in our lives, because had it not been for him in my life, in the years that I went through the struggles that I did, you know, somebody close to me said, I can't believe you have not either jumped off a cliff or ended up in a mental asylum. That's how bad it was. And she knew all the specifics and whatever. She was close to me. And I said to her, it's only because of my faith and because of Meher Baba that I'm here today and I can deal with this the way I'm able to. So we have no idea how blessed we are to have Baba in our lives. And just to keep him in our thoughts, to just interact with him as much as possible during the day, you know, whether we're working, whether we're enjoying life with family, whether we're doing whatever, just in the back of your head, you know, just a thought. I mean, I find myself saying either thank you, Baba, or I love you, Baba, like 1,000 times a day, for whatever reason, you know. So each one's relationship is different, but I would just say to keep Baba with you as much as possible. That's it. Yeah.
Great. What about your children? Are they Baba lovers?
Yes, they are. In their own ways, they are. Now, they, of course, have not had the same background I had. They've all been born and raised over here. And they've all simultaneously had their Zoroastrian upbringing as well, because their father is very much, he comes from the priestly line, if you will. But anyway, Mobed, you know, Mobed in Zoroastrian means priest. So, but they have all been to Baba's Samadhi. They've all bowed down to him there. They all know very much about him, of course, through my stories and my life with him. And each in their own way, they have experienced him, yes, I would say, internally. So, yeah. So blessed. We're very blessed to have 3 beautiful gems as our children. So.
Dev.
I see Peter's hand. Hi, Peter.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Goher. That was me. Hi. I was going to express this another way. I do have a certain question, but my condolences to missing your brother. And in me, your response is so spiritually human, so genuine, and my heart goes out to you. And also your mom. I couldn't even begin to think what a mother goes through when something like that happens. It's beyond my comprehension. And okay, I'm just trying to think of how to. What's that?
No, I was just saying it was, you know, when we finally heard that he had gone to Baba, it was my unfortunate duty to tell my mother, and that was the hardest thing I think I've ever done in my life. And when I did find, she just completely lost it. She kept banging her head on the table, just banging her head hard on the table, and it was awful. But anyway, she went on to be with Baba in about 3 years ago. So she's no longer with, she stayed with us for the last 28 years of her life. She came here in early 90s and stayed with our family all along. So, and then she finally passed just when COVID started in 2020.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did she stay with you in Florida?
Yeah, she in New York as well. Yeah. Since 92, she wanted to come here, didn't want to be there by herself because my sister-in-law was the only one there left with her own family at that time. So mom felt very insecure. So we brought her here and she stayed with us for 28 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, go here. My question wasn't that important, so I'll just leave it at that.
It's okay.
Another time.
All questions are important.
It's getting a little bit late.
Yes.
11:30 for.
Yeah. I see Tony's hand up.
Yeah. Oh, good.
This is a small thing. I just, as you were telling Mayurji's story, I remember that very well. I didn't know the person, but I knew it was a Baba lover. What year was that?
1986, September 5th, 1986. Yeah, if you Google Penn 73, you'll see the whole story.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a shock. It was a shock, I think, to any Baba lover, even if you weren't in the family.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember Meera was very upset when she heard the news, and she kept asking Baba, why, Baba, why did you take him so early? So she was very anguished about it too. Yeah.
You said 86?
Now, September 5th, 1986. Yes.
86, yeah.
Yes. Pan 73. That was the flight number. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, not like how upsetting it was for you, but I remember it being very upsetting. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he was a sweet, sweet boy. Just always so congenial, always with a smile on his face. And the Mandli loved him. They adored him when he would go and visit with them. So they felt very, very shocked when this happened. Yeah.
Let's have a few moments of silence. And then I don't know if Mayor Prasad has a quote or something there, or you have one, Goer.
Could I ask her a question?
Yeah.
What happened to the terrorists?
Oh, they were incarcerated here in this country for a number of years, I think like 20 years or something. And then there was this huge case that was brought against them, obviously. They were 4 Libyan terrorists. And then subsequently they were set free, I think. They were, yeah. But there was this huge lawsuit that was, levied against them and whatever, and I do not know the outcome of that. But they were 1 or 2 of them at least were released back to their countries.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Have a few moments of silence and. Did anyone find a quote there?
I have one, Jeff. To be worthy of the divine gift of His love, let your thoughts, words, and deeds be controlled by the constant remembrance of God. I'll read that again.
Those are Baba's words, are that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
To be worthy of the divine gift of His love, let your thoughts, words, and deeds be controlled by the constant remembrance of God. Hey, Baba.
Jai
Okay. Is there anybody want to volunteer for next week?
I would, but I don't know. My story's kind of convoluted, but I could shorten it up a little bit. I don't know how interesting it would be.
Drag it out of you. We'll straighten your story up for you.
We'll bring some questions.
So
that'll help.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep it short, succinct, and
well, not too short.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I could volunteer, and then I realized that my coming to Baba's story is still in progress.
Hey, Tony. Hey, Tony.
It's nice. We've been here, together for
years.
For years, and we don't necessarily know each other's stories. And
Hey, Marta, I would love to hear your story, Marta.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Me too.
Marta.
Wait, does Goher's story have a part 2 to it? It sounds like there's a part 2. That was Goher's father's story, and we heard snippets of Goher's story, but it seems like there's a robust part 2.
No, I don't have much more to add, Peter. I mean, you can ask questions, but basically.
Hey, I would.
Okay, later.
So this is Meher Kiran here. Goher.
Yes.
I'm dying to ask you a question.
Yes.
So, what is the secret of the freshness in your face?
Oh my!
I agree.
I'll have you know, I've just entered my 70th year.
Oh, beautiful.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's very sweet of you. Yeah, and in a couple of weeks we'll be married 50 years, believe it or not. Oh my gosh.
Double congratulations.
There's that cabinet behind her, though. That happens to be a liquor cabinet. No, she looks she
radiant.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's very sweet.
I wanted to tell everybody too, Goher, in August, Goher is going to be the guest at Meher Mount for the anniversary of when Baba came. So plan your trips, because Goher is going to be the guest.
Yeah, they asked me that 2 years ago, and I said I declined for last year for many reasons, but I did tell them that I would commit to this year. So yeah, I'm supposed to be there in August.
Yeah.
So
looking forward to it.
So thank you so much. So anyway, thank you for your kind words. And thank you for being here, all of you, and listening to me again. I know some of you have heard my story before, so.
Haven't, so yeah. Marcia.
Oh, Marcia.
Hey, I wasn't going to ask this question, but I've been like dressing my soul in Baba recently.
Yeah.
And I imagine all kinds of different ways, and I want to hear from you how you dress your soul in Baba.
Oh, that's very easy. So the first thing when I wake up in the morning, of course, I say, Baba, before I even get out of bed, Baba, I entrust my every thought, word, and deed to you, right? And then during the day, of course, so many times, whether before I put my first mouthful of food in my mouth or before, while going out to run my errands, Baba, come with me. So he's always with me. And then, of course, 12 o'clock, you think of him. 5 o'clock, you think of him. And then at night, before you go to bed, you say, Baba, I submit my every thought, word, and deed to you. So this way, he's with you and he takes over. So that's why I trust my soul. Yeah.
Lately, when I'm cooking or baking, I think, oh, it's Baba cooking. Or, when I'm showering or I'm cutting Baba's cutting his toenails through me. That's the thing. I get getting really crazy, right?
Excellent. Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, Goher. When you do your morning and evening prayer, forgive me if this is too intrusive. Is there a particular time frame that you commit to doing it for 5 minutes, or do you simply say it? Do you have a time frame?
No, I don't have a time frame, Peter, but after I take my shower and get dressed for the day, I have a few moments of being with Baba, if you will. So I say the two prayers. I start with the three prayers, actually, the Master's Prayer, the Repentance Prayer, and the Beloved God Prayer. And then I have my own words and my own dialogue with Baba, if you will. And in that, I just, I thank him for all the blessings that he bestows on me. I ask him I pray for those that need him, that need to be brought into him, that those who are suffering or physically, mentally, whatever, to come and to be brought into his love and light, and for him to help them in their onward journeys. And then I ask him to continue to guide me as well during the day. And I say, Baba, you are my everything. So that's how I end it. So there's no particular time frame or anything. I just do it, whatever comes from the heart kind of thing. And that's how I start my day. But that time,
go ahead.
I said that time for me is very special. So I just, I block off whatever interferences can happen kind of thing. And I just be with Baba for this. So that's my little very close moment with him kind of thing. First thing in the morning. Yeah.
And I noticed that you put others first before yourself. It's a little note that in the back of my head, you put others first.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's it. Anyway, I'll let you folks
Thank you
get
for
to bed.
sharing with us. It was wonderful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about all the interruptions, and but we
That's
finally.
Baba.
That's Baba, right? I know. Yeah, that's his way of saying, "Hey, listen, I'm here."
Yeah, that's what I was thinking before. He's doing it.
Yeah,
he does everything.
Anyway, thank you, Jeff, for letting me share. And
I think Jeff, you're muted.
I'm muted.
Yes.
No more.
Am I muted now?
No, no, you're good.
Oh God, I was talking a while. Nobody seemed to be hearing.
Sounds like your volume is down.
No, it's a real inspiration. I mean, you grew up. I mean, this is, growing up in Baba's atmosphere.
Yeah.
Culmination.
It's hard to hear you though, Mel.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you folks go.
Yes.
Go have a nice life out there.
But we don't want to go. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's time to go to sleep or get up.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, everyone. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Goa.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Welcome. Jai Baba, all of you.
Jai Baba.
See you soon.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Cinnabar, nice picture.
Goher, we're going to do our best to be up at Marymount and meet you in person.
Oh, how sweet. I look forward to that, Diane. Thank you. Thank you.